Hello everybody, this is Suneve and I'm coming to you with Ticci, Ticci Toby X Reader by KissedByRain. We're going to be starting off with chapter 39. There's a heavy pressure on her chest, coming every other second in hard pushes. Come on, YN. She can't breathe and her eyes refuse to open. The pressure stops and her head is tilted back by a hand by her chin. She feels fingers pinch her nose, then warmth envelops her cold lips. Oxygen suddenly makes its way into her lungs and her eyes fly wide open. Turning on her side, she starts to cough up water. Her throat is sore, and her two limbs were no longer numb. They were painful, searing hot, sending a sharp signal down and up her spine again, over and over. It was pure agony. Small whimpers of pain shake her body, hands desperately push her to lie back down, and pressure's applied to the deep wound on her leg. Her leg feels hot from blood and cold from blood loss, and she feels so weak she barely managed to breathe properly. Stay awake, sunshine. He has a hand on her cheek, looking into her eyes in panic. Maybe he knows she will die if her leg isn't treated to stop the constant blood flow. Looking past Toby, she sees a rainbow in the sky, as predicted earlier. She tries to smile, feeling ready to fall unconscious. Hey, Toby? Yes? His voice trembles from the cold or the fear of saying a final goodbye. There's a, a rainbow. She stumbles over her words, eyes fluttering. It's so pretty. Darkness seems so welcoming now. Her eyesight becomes spotted, so she closes her eyes. She couldn't take the waves of pain. Soon enough, it all stops. Her breathing slows down as if she were sleeping, and the pain disappearing. Her heart slowly ceases from pumping. Wyan, please. She blacks out. White blinds her. It's all she can see. She can hear sounds and voices. They are muffled, but she can somewhat understand. Please, you owe me a favor, someone says frantically. Another person responds, that was years ago, and helping you will make Slenderman ruin our agreement. I know, but just please help her. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if she died. Silence. Long silence. Wyan moves her fingers with enough effort, eyes opening slightly. She sees Toby and a man in a blue mask, his clothing all black. They both stand at the end of the bed she was laid on, both staring at each other as if in a stare down. Toby. Her voice sounds so weak and quiet, and since it was so silent, both of their heads shoot in her direction immediately. Toby rushes by her, his hand holding her face. It's okay, sunshine. You'll be okay, I promise. Once again, her eyes become heavy. I'm tired. She breathed out quietly. Toby gives her a forced smile. Just sleep, okay? His thumb brushes over her pale face, which only turned paler by the minute. I I love you. She finds herself smiling up at him. Really? Her voice started to trail off. She was falling asleep. Of course, and that's why I won't let you go. The sound of an engine hums gently around Wyan. It was almost enough to lull her back asleep. All events that happened come quick as she blinks the tiredness out of her usual brown eyes. Her skin returned to its natural shade, no longer paler than usual, and she felt okay besides the dull sting from where her injuries were. Her wrists, along with her knife wounds, and both arms were all bandaged up. Then she remembers what she learned. Toby murdered her father. She still doesn't know why, and hopes he would explain to her soon. Toby was in the driver's seat in front of her. He looked concentrated on the road ahead, and she didn't want to bother him, so she remained where she was in the back seat, lying down. She wonders how long she has been out, as she briefly looked out the car window. The sun was setting, and she must have been out for a day at least. Lyon closes her eyes and tries to remember the minute she was conscious after almost drowning. Who was the man in the blue mask? It must have been another friend of Toby's, and he didn't seem as bad as Tim after all, and he did save her, she thinks. She doesn't want to meet any other friends after what happened with Tim. Never. Then it dawned on her that she lost her journal in the river. Losing it was heart-wrenching, especially since it's the only thing she really owned. She was certain she was going to die in the river. She felt so ready to just let go of everything. And at the time, even Toby wasn't the center of her thoughts. She was only thinking of herself and not how it may affect him afterward when she was gone. He risked everything for her. He put himself in danger by breaking her out of the asylum, finding a temporary home while helping her deal with her own problems, and then his old master is suddenly after him because he abandoned them without warning so he could be with her. And Tim, who almost killed her, he saved her from drowning too. The number of times he has saved her will eventually become countless. Now she just wants to have a regular worry-free life, if that is even possible with being wanted by the police with Toby. She wouldn't mind being on the run with him until they grow old or get caught, and as long as he was with her, it would be okay. They would forever be on the run from the people around them, the police, Slender Man. Maybe one day after it is all forgotten and done with, she could live a happy life with him. Wyan opens her eyes lazily, now fully awake and prepared to talk to him about everything. She knew she was ready to talk to him with a clear, open mind. Toby? She calls out to him softly. His eyes immediately snap to her from the front mirror. The dull ones she saw just moments ago were bright and relieved. How do you feel? Using a great deal of strength, she manages to push herself up to a sitting position, wincing only slightly from the soreness of her body. My whole body hurts, she tells him. For a second, she smiles. That was until she spoke again. Can, can you please explain everything to me? She couldn't bring herself to cry over his death anymore. As much as she had cared for him, Toby wouldn't have just done it because he abandoned her. She needed to listen to his side of the story. I, I should have listened to you before. I wasn't thinking clearly. He returns his eyes to the road. Yes, of course, he pauses. I'm not sure how to tell you this, but it's best to just say without much detail. She suddenly feels scared of what he was about to tell her. Chapter 40. She listens carefully as he speaks. The first night I left, I was just going to a bar because I was stressed. That night I happened to stumble upon him in the bar. I knew it was him the moment he started speaking about a daughter who he had. He was obviously drunk, too drunk. He talked about you, details and everything of when you were younger. He takes a long breath in. He told me you used to be normal and used to be sane. He said he used to love you. That made me angry, of course. I didn't do anything about it, but I followed him home. And after another 2 days of watching him, I found out he was married and had three stepdaughters that he would physically and mentally abuse and grape at night. The oldest could be no older than 11. The youngest maybe 6, and the wife knows nothing of the constant abuse. He never hits them hard enough to leave marks. One night I decided I would just take him down. He spoke of you with an ill tone. The way he treated his daughters like dirt, it was disgusting. It was just disgusting. So yeah, that's why I killed him. That's why I stalked him for days to study the layout of his house. I sound cruel when I say this, but he he really did deserve it, and I don't regret it. Trying to remember how to breathe seemed impossible. Wyan wasn't able to speak, totally stunned as the truth bounces around her inside her skull. The warmth of her body abandoned her as quickly as the world had gotten old, and everyone on Earth had vanished. Her face stuck in an incredulous expression with an unblinking stare. Her brain desperately scrambling to make sense of it all. I'm so sorry, Wyan. She wants to say something, but is rendered speechless. It felt as if the walls were caving in on her. She wasn't sure what to feel. All fault on Toby has left her, and now she's trying to decide if it were for the best. She knows it was. Her father, that man, abused and assaulted his own children. It was sick. He was sick. If he didn't care enough to talk kindly of her, he wasn't worth the grieving. He wasn't worth the dwelling or the trouble after what he did to those innocent children who probably called him dad. She's glad he died and that they did not have to suffer anymore. Are you still mad at me? She hears Toby ask with a small tone like a child. His voice brings her forward out of her thoughts, and she responds immediately. Of course not. It's just hard to process. I understand. She stays silent. She needed time to think. Get some more rest. I know you're tired. She sees him give her a gentle smile from the front mirror, and she does. When she wakes up, it is somewhat dark outside. The sun was rising. She didn't see Toby in the car anywhere, which was parked in an open green field. She sits up from her spot and opens the car door, then carefully got out. She tries to put weight on her right leg, but couldn't because it hurt too much. She couldn't really move her right arm much either, not to mention her left wrist was stiff, though she could still move it. Toby? She calls out for him, holding onto the car for balance while standing on one leg. A head pops over the top of the car, startling her. She would have fallen backward if a hand didn't catch her by her left shoulder. Be careful, Sunshine. It was Toby. You shouldn't be up. You need to rest. Wyan shakes her head. No, no, I need to move around. At her response, he chuckled. Yeah, okay, here, let me help you up. He climbs down from the car just to lift her up gently where he had been seconds ago by her waist as her hands held his shoulders to keep balance until she is set on the car roof, and he joins her quickly. Once Toby sits down, Wyan crawls into his lap, and he looks down at her with a raised eyebrow. What are you doing? She smiles at him, lying against his chest. I'm cold, she lies. Yet he seems to already know that, but holds her close anyway. She then noticed the sun rising ahead of her. That must be why he was up here in the first place. She watched with an unwavering gaze as a fiery red orb of light slowly rose above the horizon, and threads of light lingered in the sky, mingling with the rolling clouds that were flushed pink. The stars, glowing embers of a dying fire, slowly disappeared along with the rest of the dark sky. Toby breaks the quietness. You know we're going to be on the run from the police and Slender for the rest of our lives, right? She nods her head. I know. We're never going to live a normal life together, he states further. She doesn't know what he's trying to get at, but just assumes he is troubled and concerned about what awaits them. I know, and I also know that as long as we're together, it will be okay. She reaches up with her uninjured hand to touch his face. His eyes were illuminated by the sun, his skin sun-kissed. To kill you and me, there would only have to be one bullet. Instead of replying, he leans down and kisses her softly. His lips were warm and electrifying. When he kissed her, her brain lit on fire, and the warmth spread throughout her entire body. After that, she was addicted. His breaths mingled with her own. She would dedicate her life to be with him from that moment on. She knew that if she lost him, she would lose herself in the world. And at this point in time, Toby was all she lived for. She had nothing left in the world, nobody but him, and that's the only thing she needed to have to keep him moving forward. This all started with her window at the asylum. Since then, his words were all she needed, his comfort, his gentle touch to reassure that everything was okay. She pulls back an inch so she could recollect herself. So, Tobias? He suddenly looked embarrassed. Yeah, that's my full name. She smiles at his reaction. I like it. It fits you. She goes to remove her hand from his face, however, he takes it in his and keeps it in place. Would you prefer that I call you Tobias? She wonders, hoping he'd say yes. He thinks for a moment, his lips curving into a smile. Yes, is all he replies. It's enough. He was the bird flying her far away. Last entry. As we live, we learn how to die. We learn of the pain and the suffering, learn of all the world's cruelties and also the world's beauties. I don't like this world, but if living will make you happy, then I'll live for you, forever. Author's note. This is the end. Still can't believe it, and I never thought I would never have gotten this far or to this point. I just want to thank you all for the support and for simply being here reading and what I have to offer. Love all of you, it means the world to me. This was a roller coaster of a story, and I love it. And it's also really cute. I'm glad they had like a touching moment near the end. I am curious to see the bonus chapters. Um, Let me know if you guys are interested in hearing the bonus chapters, or if you guys want me to start the next story that I have lined up to read for you guys. Now, due to recommendation, I have grabbed a Ben Drowned one, and I want to know if you guys would like to hear that next. But if not, I can definitely read those bonus stories for you. But until then, uh, let me know. Y'all have a good one. Bye bye!